Mindfulness Collective. This right here, right now, is the Joy of Being live stream. Come to you live from Brooklyn, New York, folks. You couldn't possibly know how delighted I am to be here. Very happy indeed. I got a little morning dew shine going on here. A little extra moisturizer. How's it going, folks? How are things? You get to see my routine that you don't. This is not a usual public thing that I do when I'm actually live. This is usually what I do before the stream. A little powder on the old moisturizer zone, the T-zone. This is now a makeup tutorial. Welcome, folks. Glad you're here. Folks, what is going on? What's happening? What's new? What's going on? Folks, let me know. Hit me real quick in the chat. Where are you at? And what are you grateful for? My coworkers are. I'm grateful for how, I'm in Brooklyn, I'm grateful for how totally awesome and smart my coworkers are. Very lucky person in that way. Okay, let's see here. I was waiting for an email so I could change the stream setup from my other computer, which is right over here. Anyway, all right, folks, real quick, hit me with where are you at and what are you grateful for? I'll be back in 30 seconds. I see people are popping in here. Hit me. I'll be back in 30 seconds. Chat amongst yourselves. I always hope that people will, chat it up. I'll be back in 10 seconds. Gotta hit one button. Okay, that's all it was. I was gone for a second. Don't you worry. I'm back. Welcome. Morning from Brooklyn. Jean is grateful for the fact that projects get completed, even if done in small pieces. That is such a good one. Thank you for that, Jean. Very excited here. Very excited to hear from folks. Where are you at right now, and what are you grateful for, folks? Hit me in that chat. I'm trying to make a little change here. Hit me in the chat. Tell me right quick what it is that you yourself are grateful for. Let's see here. Excellent. Oh, good. It came through. Email came through. You'll be so surprised at how epically important this next thing is. So important, you wouldn't even believe it. If I said that were true, I'd be lying. It's mildly important, but it's important to me. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Hold on one second here. Beep up. And shrinking down. Okay, I'm changing the overlay. That's all that's happening. Just changing the overlay. No big deal, folks. We're getting there. So folks, let me know in the chat where you at, what you're grateful for, and then we can proceed. Until then, you're just a hostage. You have no agency. Wait a minute. That shouldn't be like that. Wait, what? Oh my God. Okay, no, that's good to know. Okay. Oh, I see what's happening. Right, thanks for letting me know. Folks, hit me. Excited for today. Today's Freestyle Friday. We are going to be jumping in here with some meditation based on your preferences, your choices. What would you like to do? And the thing that I sent myself, the overlay is broken. Maybe it's not. That is what it's supposed to look like, I think. One more time. Oh. Okay. Did it work? Okay, well, that's the only change. Thank you for your patience. The overlay was messed up before, and now hopefully it is fixed. We'll find out, etc., etc. Okay, folks. Scott Nesbitt, Bay Area, grateful for 1 day off of work. Lovely. Well, I'm glad you get at least one. That's all. What more could you ask for? Here, Chris Ingram from Guatemala. Welcome. I feel like I should visit you, or at least visit Guatemala. We don't have to hang. Grateful for advanced mathematics. I'd love to go to Guatemala. Nick says, good afternoon from Karlstad, Sweden. Lots of work projects to finish up here in small pieces, which is good. Before it's the weekend, just popping in to say hi. Grateful for weird coincidences. Excellent. Love weird coincidences. So folks, it is Freaky Friday, as we like to call it. So we're going to be basing our meditation on your personal preferences. So hit me with what you would like to do, what you want to meditate on, things, challenges, interests, whatever's coming up for you, and we can we'll go from there. Excellent. And we have a new feature. Hopefully this works. This is a new thing that I'm excited might work. Let's see if this works. New feature. This might seem like, oh, it's just a black box. Is it though? Is it really just a black box in the corner? Is it? Or is it a place to make? Wait, what? Okay. Or is it a place to, What the hell? It's supposed to work, you guys. Brush. I'm supposed to be able to draw here, but it's not drawing. Okay, well, listen. Fun world. Okay, excellent, good time. So what do folks want to meditate on today? What do we want to meditate? How do we want to practice, as I'm trying to figure out how to... Nope, nothing's working. Okay, select blah, blah, blah. I don't know this program, apparently. What a weird world. Okay. I don't know, folks, so hit me real quick with what you're thinking about. What's going on? What's new? What's happening? What do you want to meditate on? Chris Ingram says, let me know and I'll help you out with travel recommendations. Great, and I'll show you around. Lovely. I'd love that. Once I get vaccinated, I'm like, maybe traveling is the way to go, because as long as I can keep other people safe too, I think I might be a mitigated risk. So that's interesting. And I truly don't understand. Well, you can see that, so that's good. I can just draw shapes, but I can't seem to paint any shapes. Or I can't seem to paint, which is the whole premise. I got a whole tablet for doing diagrams, and I'm trying to paint in color, and it ain't painting. Okay, well, listen, what are you going to do? You know what I'm going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, folks, Jean says, second concentration. Oh, Chris said, Scott Nesman said, concentration practice, and then working on wanting mind. Okay, great. Excellent. Very clear choice. Second concentration practice. I find I've been feeling a bit unfocused. Kind awareness also great too. We can have a combination, especially since kind awareness might be the direction I would go to work with wanting mind. Sporty Race Girl says, I love your awareness meditations and would love to do that again. Okay, well, listen, you guys just sketched out a real plan for us here, which means we get to meditate. We get to not worry about the fact that our fancy new system for drawing diagrams, which I was like, diagrams, finally, I've been waiting to include diagrams in this whole thing, is for later. It's not for right now. So folks, find that nice comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. I'm going to encourage folks to sit in stillness and only move if you have to. Only move if you need to. Move if you feel overwhelmed. If at any time you feel overwhelmed, feel free to allow the eyes to open. Practice with the eyes settled on a single point, or if you'd like, you can just stop the meditation altogether if it's too much. But if you do make any movement, make it slowly, make it mindfully. Okay, so folks, when you're ready, finding that nice, comfortable position that you can maintain. And we will begin. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths, just feeling the body rise and fall. Let's begin by taking a moment to consider how fortunate we are to be in a place where we can take a moment to meditate. Beginning by physically relaxing the body, relaxing the major muscle groups, relaxing the head, including the muscles behind the eyes, the back of the tongue. Relaxing the neck and the shoulders, the arms, and relaxing the hands. And there are lots of micro muscles throughout the body, and in the hands in particular, we can hold a kind of extremely subtle tightness. So even if the hands already feel like they're relaxed, relaxing them even more deeply, as though we were letting go down to the level of the bone. Relaxing the torso and the belly. Relaxing the hips, the legs, and relaxing the feet. And we relaxed sections of the body. Let's see if we can, for a moment, relax the entire body as a whole. And we're going to begin with a little bit of practice. Picking a home base, some sensation we're going to use to return to over and over, sometimes called an anchor. And I'm going to guide in relationship to the sensations of the hands, but sometimes people like to use the breath or some other sensation, whatever is readily available. If we're using the hands, they could be touching if we want, or they can be separate, doesn't matter, but we're going to either notice both hands together, or if that's too strange, we can just pick one hand. Both hands require a little bit of awareness. One hand is a little simpler. And we're going to be doing a practice where each time we notice the sensations of this home base, soaking in deeply in the mind, we're simply going to say the word this. This refers to this precise sensation in this precise moment. And each time the mind says that word, we want to make sure that we really mean it. It's very precise. The definition changes each time we use it. It's not that or that. It's precisely this. So in the mind, it might sound something like this, this, this. Choosing a pace that feels like it helps us stay with this. And we're trying to stay with this in a completely unbroken way. Of course, this is a tall order. So doing our best, and if judgment arises, a sense we failed or it's just too hard, well, it's just another distraction. It's not a problem. It's expected. But it's not this. And of course, at times the mind will drift and get distracted. It's important we know that that's not a problem. We haven't done anything wrong. That is natural and expected. And we have a term for that as well. We're going to call that not this. So any and all distraction has one big label for it. Simply not this. So enjoying how simple our world has become. Simply a world of this and not this. The challenge of this game is how simple it is. Success in the game is simply repetition and really being fascinated. Because it's different every time, can we see that newness of this springing into consciousness for the first time, this sensation in this moment. If we miss it, we'll never have contact with it again. remembering that whenever we use the phrase, not this, it has that magic word in it. So by the time we get to the end of that 2-word phrase, we want to be back in contact with this. So even distractions lead us right back to this. For a moment, letting go of this, turning to all of not this. As one big category. So we are auguring between attention and awareness. Awareness is open, taking in all experience, all of what we've been calling not this. And within that, we can take a moment to allow what we've been referring to as this. The sensations of the hands or whatever our anchor is. To simply be known among this larger space. So letting some of the details simply be known. We don't have to zoom in. Letting it simply appear in this larger field. So this is the same process we were doing just a moment ago, just with more awareness, more of an open relationship. Allowing the mind to be spacious and not forcing it to zoom in, and simply having a little bit of a sense of what we've been referring to as this. It's as though not this was supporting, surrounding. Like a wide halo holding this. And now simply opening to awareness in general, so allowing the mind to be spacious and include everything. Each time we notice any detail, noticing that detail within the whole. Letting go of the terms this and not this. So now we're spaciously open, taking in a soft snapshot of the whole. And because we're reversing the shape, we had a central focus, and now we have a non-central focus. It's the overall. Distraction will come in the opposite form. It'll come in the form of details. As we spaciously hold the mind open, distraction will be some particular detail, some part. So we reverse our labels now. We refer to whole as the overall experience and part as any particular detail. If the mind is pulled to some sensation, we introduce that sensation back to the overall. Our two labels are whole, and when we notice some detail, part. Introducing that detail back to the whole, resting there. Neither is better. Both are nature. Any thought, any sound, any particular body sensation, it's not a problem, it's simply a part. Any preference, the mind wanting or not wanting, any sense of even time or me, these are all simply details. Lovely expressions of nature. And we simply allow that detail to be experienced among all the other lovely details as one large collective. Whatever is not included. If there's any assessment or judgment, any sense of a position, a me, any assessment, this is going wonderfully, this is going terribly. Simply seeing that as a part. Allowing the mind to see it as a part within a whole. Noticing that this spacious awareness doesn't prefer, doesn't want or not want. It simply knows experience. It's the mind knowing whatever comes in contact with it, pleasant or unpleasant. Any wanting that arises is not a problem, it's simply just a part. Perhaps noticing the quietness, the spaciousness of this kind, welcoming awareness. It's kind because it doesn't need the world to be different. It simply is open to it. There's part of us that doesn't feel welcoming, doesn't feel neutral or spacious in this way. That's not a problem. It's simply a natural piece. So introducing that piece back to the overall, back to the whole. And staying with the practice, staying in stillness. The formal meditation will end when the bell goes silent. So again, staying with the practice, staying in stillness, allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes. Eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point as they fully open. Letting the spaciousness of seeing expand the spaciousness of this whole experience. The point where the eyes rest, this is a part, a detail. And our overall seeing experience, this is part of the whole. So taking a moment to recognize, here we are sitting with our eyes open as we are much of the day. So letting this moment be a great teacher, showing us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay. Looks like we have a beautifully frozen camera. Just fix that. How this always happens, I don't know. But we'll find out. Get to the bottom of it. Excellent. Ooh. So make any adjustments you need to allow the body to be comfortable. Thank you, Tamalan. Yeah. What was that like? What happened? And what do you like now? Sporty Race Girl says that this meditation always blows me away in the best possible way. I have to run. Thank you. Well, thank you. Great to see you. So happy you're here. Hopefully people like this. This is some, I don't know if we call it new meditation technology. It's sort of a new shape of some very old technology. But what I found was, and this is sort of the spirit of what we're doing here, is that, is that, what am I talking about here? That there are these two big schools of meditation, and they always were to some degree presented as opposite from each other, or like unrelated, and then some people would draw a link between the two, but it was pretty sort of abstract, or later on down the road. And I really wanted to emphasize that there are these two functions of the mind. I mean, this is, if you know attention and awareness, we're talking about the same thing, but still, they weren't really talked about as being in a way, very symmetrical and very linked. There's two different ways of meditating, where there's a sort of center, and we're, in a sense, metabolizing everything around it. In that way, the overall can hold the center and sort of support it. And if we get good at that, we can actually, this is one of the nice things of awareness. It can actually see the details of whatever the center is spread out everywhere. It doesn't actually have to be in a place. The opposite then is we can actually hold a larger experience, and there's all these parts that are, this is how the mind will work. There's detail, and then we can introduce that detail. The reason the movement is so important from the detail to the larger whole is because that's most of our, overwhelm is the mind being caught in some detail, and we cannot see that there's any perspective larger than our own. Mentalizing, which is a very important human interactive skill, is that we have one perspective, and we cannot zoom out to see that there's any other possible perspective, or to even see that our thinking is a process. It is just a view of the world. In terms of the path of awakening, a lot of our experience is that there's all these little parts. Our world is made of parts, and I'm a part and you're a part, and we have to fight. Because of course, if the most important part is me, so I need to protect that part. If that's the view, then if that's the view, then that's really isolating and alienating, and it gives me a very limited sort of worldview. And trauma is largely those parts feel fully separate. In terms of IFS, internal family systems therapy, or what we sometimes call the multiple self model, the challenge is that there's parts of us, we all have this experience. There's a part of us that wants to be ambitious, and a part of us that wants to take a nap. These are just parts, and they're active. What happens is the ones that are like wounded, challenged, from early childhood, all they see is the separateness. There's a distance, and they're just like, oh my God, and it's like they just exist in a need, yawning, like, please, please, please. But within that, if we see that, the need, they're telling us, all they see, all that part sees is what's missing. But that need, that yearning, is telling us very clearly what is missing. It's like, I need, oh, please, please. But all that part sees is its separation. It looks around, it can't see any link. Link to what? Link to awareness. Buddha nature, this larger experience, is now we're talking about the nature of nature. So what we want to do is teach these parts that they have a relationship to this larger experience. If we look at this larger experience, this is where, IFS, they actually call this larger experience self, which is a little tricky because in Buddhism we talk about, how self is a little challenging, or we want to question that. But they call it self, and it's basically the idea of Buddha nature. It's the being that we are outside of all the parts. That experience is extremely neutral, deeply, deeply neutral, and spacious and peaceful, and it has within it everything that is needed to heal all the parts that are within the system. And a lot of what we're teaching each of these individual parts that there is a relationship to the whole, and that they can get what they need from the whole. Parallel to this, there's ideal parent figure protocol, which is a type of therapy where you come up with this ideal parent and you put them in front of you and you soak in the relationship here. Well, what quality is it that these parents have? This infinite, loving, kind, open, generous, spacious, loving, existence. So what are they doing? They're like almost an intermediary. There's this, perfectly neutral, spacious kindness. And then between the part and that is this parent, this caretaker. And we're drafting off their energy, but where are they, what is it, the energy that they're drafting from is back to Buddha nature, back to this emptiness, non-dual, spacious awareness. So when we're doing this thing of like part and whole and this and not this, just know that it is a very clean link towards all of this transcendent material where we want to make a wedge that is very simple that the mind can do. And it's not just like, it's not elegant. It's not made to be just elegant for elegant's sake. It's this training, two trainings that are very key here. The first training is that we're looking at this and not this, but even the term not this can point back to this. So this thing, even distraction can point right back to the thing that we're looking at, right? This thing that the whole world can become this sort of funnel going back to the thing that we're attending to. Doesn't mean we have to point. It actually, as we open up awareness, use the power of awareness to stay with the thing we want to stay with. Very important if we're doing something challenging, we want to develop our concentration, jhana practice, these kind of things. That's one. The other really, really important lesson is that we can hang out with a whole. The mind will be drawn towards parts natural, but there's a relationship between the two. When you see a part, okay, introduce more material, back to the whole. This is the entire path of awakening. If you're familiar with this, it's like this is all of Namarupa. This is all of non-self. This is all of, what other big, this is, what do we say, arising and passing? I guess that one's a little complex because that's a temporal model. This is a spatial model. But that is the general premise. That's what we're talking about, is this, the fact that each part is actually not divided. That's a concept. It is actually part of a unified field. And of course, at times we can manage and work with one part. We don't have to let go of the unified field. So, long explanation to, I think, a question that no one asked. But the premise is that that's the reason we use these words. I think somebody gave a compliment. They love the meditation. I was explaining this larger field. That's that, folks. Hopefully that is fun, interesting, and good times for all. Let's jump into questions here. Let's get the computer to read it for me, because that is much easier for me. Okay. Exalted says the following.
Do you think everybody should become awakened? Some kind of optimal human future or something?
Okay, well, the word should is pulling a lot of weight in that sentence. The question then, and tell me if this is what you mean, is it a moral good to experience awakening? The thing is, I define awakening as including any moral good. So it's a little bit of a loop. And I think awakening is what we talk about is a threshold where the system now shifts from our usual experience of the world to one where it is naturally, by default, metabolizing the pain or difficulty of existing and is geared towards the splendor and joy of existing, of what it means to exist in the world. So, and that includes, your behavior, your actions in the world, and these kind of things. So, is it a moral imperative for people to move towards awakening? Question mark. I know this sounds weird. This sounds like some sort of like mystical thing to say. It seems like there's nothing but the path. And it's just like rougher versions of how to get there. One is like, don't get there and you're just like selfish and hurting people, etc. And one is, where you clear a lot of that stuff out of the way and the system moves in this direction. And I sort of get the thing that people say, which I was always like, what are you talking about? Like, it's like awakening is inevitable. And that theories that, I don't know if this is true, but either the instant before you die, it happens or something. It's just, you're inevitably going in this direction. But, I don't want to say it's like a universal good or something like that, because I feel like that puts it in a very weird position, but I found the process and the universe of classical awakening to be very useful in that way. So you ask a further question here. Jean has a question, but let me just, okay, you got a few here. So let me hit Jean and then I'll get back to your question. Looks like you got some clarification there. Jean says the following.
That felt very brief but was delightful, thank you. I'm sitting in a new area today, so it felt easier than normal to feel the newness of each moment.
Nice. Yeah, that feeling the newness of each moment is really important because the mind gives us the message that that's not really important. I've detected this moment before. It's not a big deal, which is part of why I like to use those specific words and define it in that way, that each time we use it, we want it to be new, or at least new in this moment. Let that be the way that it's new. Because it is important. The mind will tell us, oh, it's not that, this sensation is not a big deal. Why not pay attention to this list of things, to-do list? Like, that's so much cooler. Or whatever thought or thing feels like more interesting. So our job is to cultivate the interest in that thing. Okay, great. Okay, Exalted has some clarification here, saying,
I think Shinzen talks about this, about creating some device that would make reaching awakening or enlightenment 10 times faster.
Oops.
That's what he dreams of, if I understand him correctly. Oh, and by it should I mean post-awakening would objectively be a more preferable form of existing.
Yeah, so yeah, Shinzen does talk about this idea that there would be a machine that could enlighten people, which would be lovely. It's not my field. If it works, it works. That's lovely. He's working on it. It sounds like crazy talk, but hey, listen, I'm fully for it if that's a possibility, definitely. Would awakening objectively, well, first of all, it would be subjective because it's literally your perspective. So would it subjectively be a preferred experience? It's weird. I mean, all I can say is that the people that I talk to who are involved in this process, it is preferred, and the material is just preferred. So it's a very self-selecting community. You know what I mean? It's like people who've had really incredible experiences and are like, this is great. I want to tell everyone in the world about it. Well, that's a very self-selected group. So I could say hypothetically, there could be people who have the experience and it's not preferred, but that's not my experience. Now, I'll tell you for a fact, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I think this is fair, I feel pain more intensely than I ever did before, by far. But it can be metabolized more easily. And there's actually a little challenge because your metabolism, like your ability to metabolize the pain, doesn't necessarily move at your sort of ability to feel the pain. And this might, in a way, this might be a way to describe the dark night, where like your, all of the weirdness and the sort of deconstructedness, not just pain, but just all the weirdness is, I mean, this is actually pretty accurate, is more intense than your ability to metabolize it at any given moment. And the equanimity that's needed to, consume that is just not there yet. So there comes a point where all you're really working on is equanimity. So there's a lot of ways to crack that egg, but that is the general premise, that what is the thing that moves you towards equanimity. And what I also want to mention when I'm talking about this part and whole, for me, the most direct experience of like really, really clear sensory clarity of equanimity is the spacious awareness. If I look at that, it doesn't need anything to be different. It is truly, truly, awake and aware. And my experience toggles between those two. The problem arises when I toggle, not to the awareness, not to the neutrality, and the mind thinks this is the only thing there is. It is a part, and that's the only thing I have to protect or I have to fight or whatever. And so the premise is to continuously be teaching each part, no matter what part it is, that it has a relationship to the whole. In every circumstance. And what that does is when we start doing the deep internal work, the internal family systems therapy kind of work, or we do any piece like this to work through the difficulties, that extra piece of pain or physical pain or emotional pain, the system is primed to see, oh, it's connected to the larger whole, it's connected to the larger whole, until that piece that feels fractured is just its separateness is broken. And yes, the sensations might still be there, but they are fully built in relationship to this larger experience. So that, my friend, is an answer. The Womp. Exalted now says the following. I do want to hear what Exalted says generally, and I want to hear what other people have to say, questions, etc. So I encourage folks, hit me with your best questions.
Shinzen talks about if he had to choose one day as he is now or an entire lifetime as normal, he would pick that one day and they can kill him off at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, Shinzen says a lot of things, and I wonder if that's, I mean, I could probably maybe make the same statement, but yeah, I mean, the short version is, you asked, like, is it preferred? I mean, it's preferred for me, you know, so that's just generally what I'd say, is that the process is preferred largely so. Scott Nesbitt says,
do you think progress in meditation can still happen while using substances like alcohol or pot in moderation?
Yeah, I mean, I try to speak very broadly and like very universally. Absolutely, sure. Yeah, 100% could be the case. It is a tendency, however, that people will find that at some point the substance can feel like it's getting in the way. This is quite common, and people get to a place where they're like this is for me what I noticed. Now, right now it's about 17 years, a little over 17 years. I mean, by a little over, I mean a few days over 17 years of not using any self-prescribed mind or mood-altering substances. So, is that, so my experience, just looking back, if I smoked pot and I had decent sensory clarity, which for whatever reason I did, even when I was like not doing a lot. I mean, I started meditating when I was a teenager, so it was whatever. I had some sensory clarity. That I could feel the pot in my system for 30 days. People are like, oh, that's crazy. It's half-life, you know, maybe a week, you could blah, blah, blah. I could feel the fog for easily 30 days. And especially towards the end of my, you know, pot smoking career. And so I think that at least there's a week where the mind is like still like foggy, boggy. And I tried within the last 17 years, I would use CBD oil. Is that what it is? CBD for sleep, because just to let the system sort of sleep a little more deeply, whatever. And I would wake up in the morning and I could still tell there was like this hint of something, and like kind of clouding the system. And I think that's what I found. I mean, I was big fun time recreational substance user was my thing. And then I was like, this isn't working. It's not helping my life at all. And, causing problems, not just a neutral thing. It was like a negative, big negative. And I remember at one point I went to the dentist and they're giving me nitrous. And I was like, oh, sweet. Like, I've done this before. This is so awesome. I used to, go to concerts and do this, and this is fun. And this is like pure dental nitrous. This is great. And so I was sitting there like, breathing the nitrous. And then this big, dull, gross fog settled over. And I was like, ugh. It's like, what is this? And it's like foggy, and they pull this tooth, and I'm like, ugh. Like, it was so dulling of the crispness of perception and reality. And I think that I had slowly over time become so interested in the experience of existing that just a substance for even a few seconds that I used to really love felt really taking me out of the present moment experience. So, but however, I do think that like drinking in moderation, or pot is a little tougher, because I think pot is so strong today. Like, a hit of pot today is like a, 6-pack of beer sometimes. It's just like really insane. And if you smoke really regularly, it goes down in intensity, but then the system is like at a baseline. So the point of it all is that, yes, for some people, but you really want to be honest with yourself. And that's like generally the case. But often I hear, and this is a common thing in meditation circles, people are like, yeah, I just stopped smoking pot, or I stopped drinking, whatever, it just doesn't work. Maybe they'll drink with their friends sometimes, or they'll, whatever, but they know they got to pay the piper. Like, they know that the system's going to be, not feeling great after something like that. So that's one thing to consider. That is a consideration. This is okay. So the point then is, hopefully that answers your question. Exalted says it sounds very, very preferred. It makes normal life seem like torture. It's funny because I just, to be honest, that's not my experience. I think partially because I work with people who, don't have a lot of experience with awakening, and their lives seem okay. There are people whose lives seem fine. Awakening is not their experience. I think it's probably true for some people. my life is significantly better through meditation and through serious meditation, not just like sort of the light stuff. It's like much, much, much better. I don't even I'm like freaked out a little bit about the life that I might have, or thinking about what life I would have without meditation, including morality and trying to be a good person and trying to be helpful to people. So hopefully that's clarifying in some way. Awesome. Okay, any other questions or anything before we jump off? I'm going to need to go in just a minute here. So questions, reports. I was so excited about this drawing pad where we can draw. I truly don't even know what's happening. I'm going to try this real quick. I'm going to close this and open it again. See what happens. Closed. Let's reopen this sucker. Okay, and zoom out. Let's see what happens if I can draw on this thing. I really was wishing that I could draw on this thing. Okay, nope. This is here. Let's transition. Fingers crossed, folks. Fingers crossed. Can it paint? Oh, it's painting, but it's painting black. So why do you want to paint white? Why is it painting black? I mean, I don't know if you can see that, but it's painting black. How do you pick a color? What the hell kind of world is this? I'm selecting this color. Painting with a brush. What am I doing wrong? Okay, folks, I'm sure this is really exciting and interesting for folks, but it is not indeed. It's not working. Okay, folks, great to see you. Exalted says, also random thought I just had, would you say the Dark Knight is kind of like mourning your own death? I can see the black line. I know, but it's supposed to be a white line. It won't draw in white. Okay, mourning your own death. I think it's mourning the death of a certain safety protocol. That's what I'd say. The Dark Knight is the system. I don't even want to say mourning, because mourning seems like a pretty healthy relationship to it. I think it's the whole process of mourning. It's like, you look at the process of mourning. It's like, I think fear is one of the stages, right? I'm like fogging on the stages, but, bargaining and regret and acceptance, etc. And acceptance being equanimity. I think fear's in there. Anger. Pushing against a change that's happening in the system. I think that's a fair fear, misery, disgust. So basically, I think that's fair, that it's, in a sense, the mourning process of a safety protocol, which is just in another way of saying a self. It's a safety protocol. Okay. Hopefully that was interesting, folks. Hopefully that's fun. Hopefully you weren't coming here expecting and wanting a drawing, and without a drawing on the screen, you're like, I'm out. So lovely to be here with you as always, folks. I'm going to crank on the music, but we're not done. Not at all. Take just a moment once again to, with your eyes nice and wide open, take in the whole experience, larger experience, noticing with our eyes open. It's easy for the mind to be pulled into specific details. So spaciously allow the eyes to open, spaciously connect with the experience. Know that this is something we can turn to at any time. This is how we learn to bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Folks, as always, practice well. Take care of each other, have fun, and we'll see you all very, very soon.